seem to have a little bit of trouble getting to Brian Williams here.
Assalamu alaikum, Uncle Iqbal.
Alaikum salam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Good.
Is it not on YouTube, this thing?
It is. I just launched it.
Because we are on Siijla Media. I don't see anything.
You should see the live program right now. Give me a second. 1 second.
Siijla Media, I don't
Yeah, it's live, Uncle Iqbal. You may want to refresh. Abbas Ali, we'll get started in about a minute or two, okay?
Okay.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Welcome everybody. Assalamu alaikum. We are here to celebrate the Wiladat of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, Imam Musa Kazim, and Imam Muhammad Taqi alayhi salam, inshallah. May Allah grant us the opportunity to perform their ziyarat, inshallah, in the near future. Tonight's program, inshallah, we have our live guest speaker, Sheikh Asad Jafri, who will be joining us from Toronto. And then we will go with that. Before that, we'll have Hadith Kisa. After the majlis, we will then have Qasida recitation by Shabir Mustabakar from New York, who will be joining us live as well. And then, inshallah, we will conclude with ziyarat. So with that, let's kick off with Hadith Kisa. Abbas Ali, if you're ready, Bismillah.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. عن جابر ابن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغتيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله اللهم صل على محمد. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدة يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء قال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدة السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافي أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معهما تحت الكساء فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب فقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء فأقبل لي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك فدخل علي تحت الكساء ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي قد أذنت لك فدخلت تحت الكساء فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومي بيد اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل البيت وخاصتي وحامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مذيعا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال جبرائيل يا ربي تأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لي أبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة النجية ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة النجية ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه يمين ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه يمين ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته يمين. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وسئدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسئدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you, Abbas Ali. Great job, mashallah. All right. Give me 1 second. Okay, so now we'll go into our main topic with Syed Asad Jafri, who has joined us, alhamdulillah. But before we turn it over to him, just a quick brief introduction on Syed Asad Jafri. He was born and raised in Toronto, Canada. After completing his bachelor's in the IT field, he pursued his Hausa studies in Qom in 2004, earning a second bachelor's degree in the field of Quranic studies. He is currently pursuing his master's degree in Islamic theology from the Islamic College in London, and he currently resides in Toronto, where he serves the greater Islamic community across the various centers, alhamdulillah. So with that, with the aladas of salawat, let's welcome him to our community. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you, Hasnain, by me. Allah bless you, inshallah. And may He keep you always enlightened to serve the community the way that you do, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتحدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم السلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا والشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Walaikum assalam.
First of all, let me send my congratulations, my mubarak, my tabrik to the Imam of our time and to the Maraje and all of you, my respective sisters and brothers in the Siijla community out there in LA, on this beautiful night, this Adim night, this grand celebration of three of our Imams, and of course on the arrival of what's known as Fasl Ibadat, the season of worship in the months of Rajab, Sha'ban, and Shahr Ramadan. It would have been such a nice opportunity for me to hop on a plane and exit this cold that I'm in right now in Toronto and be there in LA amongst the palm trees. And yes, amongst you as well. It would have been nice, but we live in a virtual world, and inshallah one day, someday, and don't get me wrong, even if it was snowy in LA, I would hop on a plane to see all of you. It helps that palm trees are there, but still, I would be there inshallah with all of you. But it is, honestly, all jokes aside, it is an honor and a privilege. I'm thankful to the executives and to the team for allowing me the honor of being with all of you during such a grand celebration. Seeing as to how this celebration involves three of our Imams, I thought that it would be a good idea to look at the concept and the idea of our Shia identity and strengthening our Shia theology and our aqidah and our belief system. It's a massive topic, I get it. To try to wrap this up in one lecture will be difficult, but just some food for thought for all of you. The first thing I'm going to mention is that these days that we are in, and I think this is the first time that I'm addressing the Siijla community, and I know that we've been going back and forth for a few years, so I'm happy that things finally worked out. And so I wanted to mention, even though we're about 2 weeks into the season, I wanted to mention a little bit about the beautiful days that we are in right now. And tonight is the eve of the 30th of Rajab, and it's the eve of the Wiladat Sa'adat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And he is one of the Imams that we are here tonight to celebrate. And of course, that itself has its importance and its celebration and its grandeur. But more importantly, these 90 days that we are already embarked on, 2 months, 2.5 months now already left until the end of the month of Ramadan and Eid. This is known as Fasl Ibadat, the season of worship, as some ulama have called it. Look, in our January to December Gregorian calendar, there are several other calendars that are embedded in the 12 months. If you look at the school calendar, it starts in September and ends in June, depending on what level you're at. The fiscal period is, another one. The Islamic calendar is no different. It begins in Muharram, it ends in Zil Hijjah. It has its various embedded calendars in it. And one of the calendars or the seasons that we have inside of the Islamic calendar is known as the season of worship, beginning with the first of Rajab, ending, of course, with Eid al-Fitr. And oftentimes I give the example of the fact that these 90 days are, for us, accelerators on our path towards God. Look, I'll give you examples, okay? Let's say, for example, you're driving, to your friend's house, or you're driving, let's say, to the center. And when you drive to the center, you initially go through some small roads and some major roads, and Depending on what road you're on, the speed zone, of course, is different. Usually in a residential area and small little, streets around your house, it's obviously a little bit of a slower zone. Then you get to the major roads, right? And then you go a little bit faster. Then there comes that moment in your drive to the center where you hit the highway, the freeway. And there, not only are there no lights and no stop signs, but also the speed limit is a little bit higher. So now all of a sudden, once you get on that oncoming ramp, right, you begin now to what? You begin to accelerate. And now you can see yourself now and, the car moving a little bit faster, which means that you are on, the verge of getting to your destination. And the amount of ground that you pick up on the freeway is actually faster and more than what you picked up in the first half of your journey. For us, the months of Rajab and Sha'ban and the month of Ramadan are accelerators. They're the freeway to what? Towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are acts of worship in these months. There are the doors of mercy are open a little bit wider in these months. All sorts of traditions in these months that talk about the mercy of Allah, the rizq of Allah, the plan of Allah, the grace and the blessing of Allah. And for us now to allow these days to simply go by like any other day is a shame, a lost opportunity. These are the days of Allah, the ayam of Allah. Days to remind us how amazing He is. And what I want to speak a little bit on is something about the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look, there's a dua that we have in Untitled Rajab after every single wajib salat. That dua that says, Ya man rajuhu li kulli khair wa amanu sakhatu 'inda kulli shar, ya man yu'til kathira bil qalil. It's my favorite line of that dua. Oh, to the one, or addressing the one who gives a lot in exchange for a little. Right? Let's think about for a moment, the return on investment that we get. Okay? Amir al-Mu'mineen describes in Nahj al-Balagha that one level of a worshipper is that of a business person, a tujjar, one who does tijarat. Tijarat is that word that's used in Arabic, Farsi, and Urdu, right? A tajir is a business person. He says the first level of worship is the individual now who buys and sells with God, okay? He now or she now presents their worship to God, saying, look, God, this is my X amount of salat, X amount of fast in the month of Ramadan. These are my hajjs. This is my khums, this whatever. I present that to you, and I want what? Heaven in return. I want an eternity of bliss and serenity in return. Okay, so let's humor me for a moment. Let's do a little bit of the math, shall we? Let's say that for males, let's go our sisters, okay? Our sisters turn baligha when they're 9, 10 years old. From the age of 10, let's make our math easy. Age of 10, everything becomes wajib on them, correct? And let's say they live until 90. 80 years of worship, 80 years of worship. Okay, just quantifying. Forget quality, forget how good the salat was, forget how much the hajj was accepted, forget all that. If we go there, really becomes a depressing discussion. Let's simply go on quantity. 80 years of worship, not knowing if I was ever in the worship, out of the worship. It was muscle memory. I was actually, present and mindful in that worship. Doesn't matter. I present to God, these are 80 years of my worship. I want an eternity in return. Look, Baba, with all due respect, man, a good deal is 80 years of worship, 80 years of heaven, right? If it's a one for one. But the grace of Allah is what? Ya man yu'til kathira bil qalil, the one who gives a lot in exchange for a little. I bring my measly, bare minimum worship to God, broken now, and God knows dirty and stained, and I don't know, parts are working, parts aren't working, it's cracked here, it's broken here, here's my salat, here's my fasting, here's my hajj that I complained about, it's too hot, too many people, I'm getting elbowed in the ribs during tawaf, why is everybody so rude, I'm doing my sa'i, all of that now I present to God, hopefully He'll accept it, except to the point where He gives me eternity. It's like, dude, who would take that deal? God would, in all His infinite grace. And that's one line from a dua that is prescribed to us by the Ahlul Bayt inside the month of Rajab. These are not ordinary days. So don't treat them like ordinary days. I'm not asking you to sit on the musalla and Allah, Allah, Allah with your tasbih. No, of course not. But a little bit of a change. Now, what I want to speak about tonight is something very near and dear to me and a little bit of a bitter pill. Now, you guys aren't used to me. You've heard me, let's say, on YouTube, or maybe you followed me in a lecture series here and there, but me addressing you like this live now, and I'm coming live right now. It's right now, I'll tell you exactly, 11:26 here on the East Coast, and I had my espresso, and I had my coffee, and I had my nap, so I'm all ready to go. Don't worry, I'm not going to fall asleep on you. It's almost midnight here on the East Coast, but I'm fired up. I'm in LA, baby. I'm fired up, okay? Being a big Kobe fan, a Lakers fan, may God bless the soul. You know, it's just, I'm excited to be with you guys. But what I have to say won't be easy to deliver or to listen to. Yes, it's a night of celebration, a night of confetti, a night of decorations, a night of, I remember me growing up in my center. I was born and raised in Toronto, as Hussein Bhai has said. And, I remember this Jashan very vividly. It's one of my favorite Jashans all year round. I walk into the center. Center is, it's got beautiful decor on it now. And oh man, people were dressed out like, dude, there were people who were wearing like lime green sherwanis and bright red shirts and polka dot socks. I'm like, woo, like they pulled it out for that Jashan. It looked like a bag of Skittles in the men's hall. There were so many colors. All of them just happy, ecstatic. It's Mola Ali's Jashan. Are you kidding me? Nothing, everything's on the table. Let's do this. Every qasida, the guy has a voice, doesn't have a voice. He's struggling up there, can't pronounce the words. Who cares? Everyone's having a grand old time, and that's how it should be. Absolutely. This is the night where we look to our mothers and say to Amma, Amma, thank you for teaching me Ali when I was younger. Thank you for teaching me Haidar at night before I went to bed. This is where I look to my father and say, thank you, Dad, for putting the best of clothes on me to go to the Khushali and go to the center. Why? This is not an ordinary day, son. To the point where he would check the bottom of my socks. One hole, go change your socks. It's a big day. Let's put some gel on the hair. Let's use soap on the face. Soap on the face, not just water. Absolutely. This is the Eid of Eids. This is the birth of my Mola. But it's a night of reflection as well. A night of introspection as well. A night for us to a little bit of accountability. It's not a night only, they say izhar muhabbat in Urdu, expression of love. The question tonight is not how much do I love Amir al-Mu'mineen? How much do I love Imam Qadim? The night, it's not about how much do I love the Ahlul Bayt and the Imams. The question is that am I loving them the way they want to be loved? Oh, things got serious. If I was in your center right now, it'd be like pin drop silence. What happened to the nadas? What happened to the, the jokes? What happened to... It's not so much that I love Ali. It's not so much that I love Amir al-Mu'mineen. That's obvious. I hear about his war stories, I get goosebumps. I hear about the way he would debate and destroy the enemy with his intellect. I'd be like, ooh. I would hear about the way he would feed the orphans. I would hear about the way the animals would tug on his abba, follow him everywhere he went. And of course, goosebumps, this warm blood rushing through my veins. That's not the question. The question is, am I loving him the way he wants to be loved? Because one concept in the Quran that's constantly mentioned is mawadda, mawadda, mawadda. It's mentioned in two different, very distinct dimensions of the deen. One is inside of our social and home environment. One is inside of our aqidah and our identity. One instance of mawadda we find in the very famous wedding verse, right? Where everyone plasters this verse on their wedding cards. Where Allah now elevates the institution of marriage to a sign of His. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ Surah Rum, verse 21. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. From my signs, what? I created for you and from you spouses, so you may find serenity in them. And I place between them, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. I place mawadda and I place rahmah. So mawadda is there in a domestic environment between you and your spouse. Very specific. I place these two principles, which are the two ingredients for success in a marriage, already there. I gave you the seeds, take them home, put them in some soil, give them water, give them sunlight. Now you have to now help them grow. It's not enough to say, oh, well, God gave it to us, that's it, it should be there. No, it has to be cultivated now. And the other instances where the Prophet of Allah now is asking for a reward. No other prophet, 123,999 prophets never asked for a reward. In fact, they were adamant, some of them, in Surah Qasas and Surah Anbiya, to say, we don't want an ajar. We don't want a jaza. We don't want a shukr. We don't want a reward, a thank you. We don't want a plaque. We don't want a certificate. We don't want anything. But the Prophet says that I want something. I want something. You were on the brink of the hellfire. I brought you back. You were on the verge of chaos. I brought you back. You had no idea what you were doing. You were living a life of the Jahiliyyah era. I gave you intellect. I gave you knowledge. I gave you salvation. I gave you something to believe in. I want a reward, but not for himself. He says, I don't ask for anything. إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةً فِي الْقُرْبَى. Except that I want you to have mawadda for my family. Another instance of mawadda. What does this mawadda mean? What is Allah talking about? Now, in some English transitions, you'll find love. Love. Yeah. One day, someday, I'll talk about love with Ali in LA. What better place to talk about love than Hollywood, right? Yeah. But not tonight. Mawadda is not love. Mawadda is something else. Mawadda is one of those words in Arabic that there is no equivalent word in English. There's a lot of them out there. It is a system. The best way I can describe what mawadda is to know the language of love of the person that you are trying to now be in love with. Follow me for a moment. Okay? There's something called the language of love out there. Okay? What's the language of love? Look, you're married and you tell your wife, honey, I love you. Babe, I love you. Janu, I love you. Great words, right? You think that you're romantical, right? It's fantastic. And meanwhile, she's telling you, I need more help around the house. I need you to help me raise the kids better. I need you to be present. I need you to, spend some time with my family the same way that you expect me to spend all my time with your family. I need you to lose 15 to 20 pounds. All of these things. One by one, you don't do one of them, not even a single one of them. But honey, I love you. Honey, I love you. Honey, I love you. After a while now, the house is dirty. You haven't been to the in-laws in months. Instead of losing 10 pounds, mashallah, you gain 15 more. But honey, I love you. Honey, I love you. Honey, I love you. After a while, she'll say, take your love and go tell your mother that you love her. Don't come and tell me. If you loved me, then you would do this. Her language of love is not what you and I think it is. If she comes home one day, the house is spotless. There's a fresh cooked meal on the stove. The kids are showered, and they're in bed. And you're sitting there with a dozen roses. It's not Valentine's Day. It's not her birthday. It's not her anniversary. It's nothing. Just because. And then you say, honey, I love you. She'll melt on the spot. She'll be a puddle inside of your hands. Why? It's not the words. It's the action that is accompanying the words. Language of love. Know the language of love of your child, of your spouse, of your siblings, of your parents, of your in-laws. Once you know that language, speak that language. Can you imagine now being in one house? One guy is fluent in only French, one guy is fluent in only Spanish. Can you imagine now? Or one husband knows Urdu but no English, the wife knows no Urdu but English. Can you imagine that conversation? It's a lot of grunting, a lot of writing, a lot of, oh man. How could they? They don't speak the same language. There's zero communication. You need a common language. You need to know the language of the other. So one now takes Urdu classes, one now takes English classes to communicate. Love also has a language. Everyone speaks their own version and their own dialect of love. A lot of times I have a lot of my youth sit there and say, Asad, why can't I worship God the way I want to worship God? I love him. He's there inside of me. I believe in him. There has to be a higher power. He is that higher power, but he's asking me to pray. I do pray. I just don't pray the way he wants me to pray. He wants me to meditate. He wants me to sit there and do some introspection. I do. I sit there and I meditate a few times a day. I do hot yoga a few times a week. I go into this Zen mode a few times a week. I sit in quietness. I do some introspection. I do some self-thought. I have a journal on my side table. I journal, every single day. I have a gratitude journal. All of that. He wants me to quiet my nafs down, silence my soul. I'm doing all of that. I'm just not going up and down, ruku, sujood, qiyam, tashahud, salam. I'm not doing any of that 5 times a day, but I'm praying to him. That's what he wants, right? I donate to this project. I serve at this soup kitchen. I help out here. I volunteer here. I'm part of the madrasa here. I'm the director of operations here in Siijla. I do all this. I do all of that. I donate my money. I donate my time. I donate everything. I donate my smile. I do it all. But still, he wants 20%. I don't get it. Why can't I do it the way I want to do it? It has to be on my terms. Woo, wait a second now. Who's the abd and who's the mawla? Who's the servant and who's the master? Who is the desired target of your worship, and who is the worshiper? Who's the worshipped? Who's the worshiper? And logic would dictate that the worshipped sets the rules for the worshiper, not the other way around. You can't sit there and say, God, you're the only entity that is deserving of my worship, but I'm going to worship you the way I decide. What world do we live in? The simple answer, why do we pray salat the way that we pray salat? Is because he's asking us to. He's the one that's being worshipped. He gets to call the shots. Shaitan comes to Allah and says, Allah, forget this Adam business. Before Adam, I was the man. He was revered by the jinn and the angels. He would worship a God for thousands and thousands of years. In Farsi, they have a saying that he was a ta'us of the jinnat. Ta'us is Farsi for a peacock. A peacock is used sometimes in Islamic poetry to denote beauty that's unmatched. Right? You've seen the peacock open up, right? It's you're just in shock. You stop what you're doing and you're like, whoa. He says to Allah, forget this Adam. I can't bow down to this man of clay. Remove this command that you have from me and watch how I worship him. Watch how I worship you. Just do this between us. And God says, Shaitan, you don't dictate to me how to worship me. I get to tell you how to worship me. I'm the one being worshipped. You don't get to sit there and say, look, honey, I love you, but I'm going to love you on my terms. No. She says, if I'm your beloved, I get to call the terms. And the Ahlul Bayt are no different. We're here tonight. You're putting up with this face right now because of love for the Ahlul Bayt, love for the Imams and nothing else. Your love is not to be doubted. Your love is absolutely there from childhood until now. Even the ones that don't want to be there, sitting there folding their arms, watching me on their devices, there is still love of Imam Ali inside of their hearts. The question is not that. The question is that love based on what you want to love Ali with or what Ali wants from you? We say, Ya Hussein, we say, Labbaik, Ya Hussein. We go to Karbala every single year. We go to the Mokis and Arba'in. We serve, we massage the feet of the Za'ireen. We wash the shoes of the Za'ireen. We serve them all sorts of food on their walk from Najd to Karbala. That's amazing. Every year, Malana, I don't miss one Ashura. It's been 10 years, a decade. I make sure on the day of Ashura, I recite Ashura in front of the Dharih of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. MashaAllah, brother, that's amazing. You examine his life and he resembles Yazid inside of his house. Ooh, it's a bitter pill, man. Not easy. You ask his wife, he says, he's the Yazid of our house. He's a Saddam of our house. He's a Fir'aun of our house. But he says, Labbaik ya Hussein every day of Ashura. You ask his children, he says that my father's a tyrant, Malana. Does he have love for Hussein? Absolutely. What would cause a man to massage another man's feet except for the love of Imam Hussein? There are people on this night of 13th of Rajab who dance in the streets of their respective neighborhoods, who hire dancers. With my own eyes, somebody sent me a video years ago, and don't tell me it doesn't happen. It happens way too much, that now there's a celebration in the neighborhood. Fireworks are happening. That's no problem. They hire dancers. They make a circle. They sit on chairs. They watch dancers of the opposite gender dance and dance, all in the name of the 13th of Rajab. Ali, Haydar, not this, not that. And all of that is there love? There's love, absolutely. Would Ali attend such a gathering? No. What good is that love? I love you, I love you, I love you. The house is empty, there's no food in the fridge, and you've gained 20 pounds. I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you, Ali, I love you, Ali, I love you, Ali. I don't care about Salat, the Quran is forgotten, all these things are there. I ridicule. Night of celebration is a night of introspection. I always ask my young couples, a lot of you guys I know in LA right now watching me, some of you are planning your weddings, right? This is in the Khoja community, this is wedding season, right? This is Rajab and Sha'ban is wedding season. I'm 37% Khojas. Khoja, I am. If my ideal breakfast would be dokra and a little bit of mandazi and that chai that you guys make in your jamaats. I have no idea what you put in it. Don't tell me. But oh my God, that chai is ridiculous. Like I've never had chai in my life like that. What you put in that, what you sprinkle in there, I don't want to know. Don't tell me. It might be haram for me, but it's fantastic. So I know exactly all about the communities out there. This is right now wedding season, and I know. And then part of that wedding planning is that you make now a list, an invitation list of your guests, which is the most stressful part of the wedding. That's where the fights happen. That's where you call off weddings. That's where you throw things across the room, all of that. Why is that person coming? Why is this person? Who is this person? Who is that person? I've been through it. I know. Do me a favor, anyone out there, young couples who are planning their wedding, do me a favor. Take your first invitation that you get, a nice envelope, and in the to field when there is a black line, an empty line, write down Imam Mahdi for me. The first invitation, the first wedding card that you're going to write is Imam Mahdi. Put it aside. I'm being dead serious. Then ask yourself, will he come to my wedding? There are people, I kid you not, I kid you not. There are people who give me their wedding invitation and they say, Milan, this is for you, mashallah, and my son's getting married. And, they also say, look, I know you won't come, Malala. You won't come. I go, why wouldn't I come? Mashallah, ghar ki khushi hai, why wouldn't I come? No, you wouldn't come. Oh, there's music there. These kids nowadays, blame the kids, of course, right? It's all kind of mixed, and there'll be a live DJ and this and that, and these kids, right? They want these big Western weddings. We can't control them. Nervous laugh, but still, I go, look, uncle, just keep the card, mashallah, please. That card's expensive. Reuse it for somebody else. Mawadda is language of love. Now, the question you'll ask me, Syed Asad, now that you've ruined the whole celebration, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and ask yourself, what is Ali's language of love? It's not a mystery. His sermons, his letters, his sayings, him addressing his enemy, him addressing his children, him addressing his governors, him addressing his companions, him addressing women, children, men, young, old, atheist, enemies alike. All of that has been well documented, all up and down Nahj al-Balagha, different ahadith. There's no shortage of advices from Amir al-Mu'mineen. But the one thing that I want to now draw your attention to tonight, and I will not go more than 40 to 45 minutes, I promise you, is this idea and this concept that when you look at some of the reactions of Amir al-Mu'mineen in certain areas of his life, you end up finding out clues what was important to him. And we try to emulate that. and I'll take you. I know it's the eve of his birth. And let me take you all the way to the morning of his death. Oh my God, this guy got even more gruesome, even more depressing. I was happy this guy's killing us up here. Now he's talking about the death of Imam Ali. What's happening? And I mean, Hussein Bahai's phone is blowing up. Who is this guy? Who did you invite? What, did nobody else? Yeah, Hussein Bahai made a mistake. Maybe his first 5 choices weren't available, so he called me, and now he's stuck with me.
Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Oh, you're there.
I'm here. Thank you, Sheikh.
When he was struck with Ibn Muljim's sword, serious issue. When he's struck with Ibn Muljim's sword, which is poisoned, what does he announce? He announced his success. Fustu wa Rabbil Ka'aba. He does not sit there and complain to God, God, I'm your hujjat. How can you do this to me? Didn't complain to Ibn Muljim. That same Ibn Muljim that gave bay'at to Ali on Ghadir. Did not cry out for help, didn't complain to others, didn't sit there and call for his sons. No, he called and announced his success. It's very ajib. We've been hearing it for years. We have memes, we have all sorts of images out there. Fustu wa Rabbil Ka'aba, and it's beautiful. Ever wonder why? Why at that moment would he sit there and announce his success? Was there a shortage of moments in Ali's life? His life is a life of achievements, accolades. I mean, if it wasn't enough on the battlefield, 35 in Badr, Amr ibn Abdawad in Khandak, the door of Khaybar, Ghadir. One by one, there were so many moments for him, a few times in his life being called outward, explicitly called the wasi and the successor of Rasulullah. Those moments aren't success, they are, but he chose that moment when now the blood trickles down his face, begins to stain his white beard. He says, now Ali is successful. Why, Amir al-Mu'mineen? Because he realizes that this dunya threw everything at me. It did. This dunya threw everything at him to lure him off the path, to pull him off the path, to make him denounce his religion, to make him question his God, to make him sit there with the enemy. The Holy Prophet passes away. There's chaos in Medina. Chaos in Medina. People are confused. No idea what's going on. Saqifa happens, his announcement of a Khalifa. Ghadir happened 70 days ago. What's going on here? And the herd follows the herd. And a handful are left with Ali. And we think, oh, he was silent. He was silent. No, he wasn't silent. Khutbah Shaqiyah, the third khutbah of Nahj al-Balagha. Outwardly, he says the young died off. The old died off, the young became old. Ali was still waiting for his God-given right, that khilafat. He watched as 1, as 2, as 3 khulafa now went through his era. Then finally, when the ummah came, rushing to his front door, almost crushing his children, then he says, fine. But during that time now, he compared the khilafat of the first khalifa to a shirt. Look, let me give you a very simple example, okay? Just to keep it light, because things get serious now all of a sudden, right? We talk about history. Keep it light, okay? I have 2 brothers, one younger than me and one older than me, okay? I'm that Muslim middle child, okay? And if you know how things work, I come from a typical Pakistani background. I was born and raised in Toronto, but my parents are from Karachi, okay? And inside of a typical Pakistani household, and if my brother's listening, which I doubt, he'll kill me, but the eldest brother is the Shahzada. He's the prince, okay? He gets the fresh food. He gets, for some reason, every time there's laundry, all of our clothes go into Bhaijan's closet. Like, we don't own t-shirts, we don't own socks, all of it now. All of a sudden now, his drawers won't close because they're filled with socks, because half of those socks were mine. I don't know why my mom thinks that I don't own anything, but everything goes to him. So literally, I remember one day, Sunday morning, he comes down for breakfast, right? My older brother, Mr. Shahzala, Mr. Prince, and he's wearing a shirt that obviously doesn't fit him. Okay, now I'm the tallest of my brothers, right? And back when I was in school, I used to be part of the weightlifting. Don't be impressed, because all that is gone by now, but I used to be part of the weightlifting. I was heavily involved in sports, so I was also a little bit more broader than he was, my older brother. He comes down in a shirt that's his size. It's a t-shirt, looks like a full sweatshirt, okay? The sleeve is on his wrist when it should be on his bicep. He's coming down, having his eggs. I'm looking at his shirt that I've been looking for weeks, mind you. I go, Bhaijan, doesn't that shirt seem a little bit big to you? He's like, yeah, bro, honestly, I felt like it was a little bit loose. I thought I was losing weight. I go, no, you're not losing weight, my man. The shirt you have on is my shirt. It's not anybody would know. The shirt you have on doesn't even fit you. Did you not realize that this is quite loose? He goes, yeah, but then I thought it's in my closet. It's clean, so I wore it. Then I looked to my mom and she just shrugged her shoulders. What am I supposed to say to my mom? When you don't wear the shirt that belongs to you, it's very obvious. Imam Ali describes the khilafat of the first Khalifa as a shirt in Nahj al-Balagha that he forced himself on. The buttons aren't buttoning, the collar isn't proper, the sleeves are off. You could tell the shirt is not his. So Ali wasn't quiet. He was very vocal, but what could he do? And along comes Abu Sufyan. And this to me is a very delicate moment. And I can't get over this moment. It's very well, I mean, a lot of you know where I'm going with this. Abu Sufyan comes to Ali, says, Ali, this khilafat is not theirs. You know it, they know it, I know it. It belongs to the Bani Hashim. You say the word, I'll have the streets of Medina filled with blood, and I'll have your khilafat brought back to you. Your God-given right back to you. What an offer. What an offer. If it was someone like me, I'd say, fine, Abu Sufyan, you and I are boys for one day. We're allies for one day. Okay? It was like the first All-Star after Shaq and Kobe broke up, right? And then they're on the same team. Like, oh my God, like, you know, Shaq threw a alley-oop to Kobe. You're like, oh my God, they're teammates for one day, and the next day, of course, they're back to enemies. Same idea. Yes, I compared Abu Sufyan and Imam Ali to Shaq and Kobe. It's LA. What am I supposed to do, right? If it was me, I'd say, look, fine, allies for one day, but never again. Get my khilafat back, we go back to being enemies. He doesn't even for a moment entertain the offer. In fact, he blames Abu Sufyan. These are your tactics. Because of you, this is the current state of the ummah that the Prophet worked so hard to raise. My point is that the dunya and shaitan, all those elements inside of this perishing troublesome dunya threw themselves at all costs at the feet of Ali, and every single time he was tempted, he said, forget it. Not only that, he would describe this dunya in the most disgusting way, in the most insulting way. The snot of an animal, he would say, is worth more to me than your dunya. The rope I use to tie my shoes to my feet, that rope is worth more to me than your measly dunya is. He was never tempted. He always was okay with being distinct. He was always okay with going against the grain. Until he was struck with his sword. When the dunya now lost all hope that I cannot sway this guy off the path, my only choice is to kill him. And not even face to face. They knew that we could never kill Ali in the battlefield. We didn't have the jurat, the audacity, the hope. We have to wait until when? Until he's completely in a different world to kill him, meaning in the mihrab itself. You ask about the language of love of Ali. You ask about what do you want me to do when it comes to Imam Ali's life? I want you to emulate that. I want my youth in LA to be okay with being distinct. Your identity is your distinction. What does that mean? What that basically means is that I want you to be okay. And I use the word distinct very carefully. I'm not saying isolated. Great, he wants me to be a hermit. He doesn't want me to have friends. He wants me to be boring. I can't have a social. No, none of that. None of that. None of that. But my God, I look at some of today's millennials and I wonder to them, these kids are good kids, man. They come from great families, born and raised in good Islamic environments. And this is what they're doing? All to please a few people that tomorrow will dump them and leave them? I literally, sometimes I sit there one-on-one in Toronto and talk to some of the greatest youth that I have ever met. Over a coffee, we talk for hours. These kids have their head on straight, man. They know exactly what the real deal is. They know what's going on. They know what all the dangers are. One-on-one, great pious kid, God-fearing, God-conscious. You could tell he comes from a great family. But that same kid in his group of friends, I can't recognize the guy. He even walks different. He limps for some reason now. Sells his soul out every second that he's with them. Looks at me and says, I'm sorry. I said, I don't know what else to do. These guys make me feel like I belong. And this fear that he has of being ostracized, isolated, called out, all of that is forcing him to quiet his soul down, silence the conscious, turn deaf towards his voice of reason, all because these guys will accept me if I do what I know is wrong. That's not Ali's language of love. We have to be okay with being distinct in this morally bankrupt era. What I mean by that, there's a room full of 100 people. They're all wearing bright white t-shirts, unprinted. Bright white t-shirts, every single one of them. You scan the room, they're all wearing the exact same white t-shirt, bright, fresh out of the dryer. And you walk in with your hot pink shirt on. You walk in with your tie-dye shirt on. You walk in with your baby blue shirt on. You walk in with polka dots. Will you stand out? Oh yeah, you'll stand out. Will you be stared at? Oh yeah, you'll be stared at. But if anyone else walks in after you, they say, wait, everyone is one way, but this guy is distinct. And he seems to be confident in his issues. He seems to have trust. He seems to have certainty in his path. Look, let me share one thing with you, and then Masadua. I don't even know how long I've been going on and on for. It's been long enough now. Sorry. 5 minutes more, Masadua. We sometimes hear about the fact that when Imam Mahdi will come, there'll be some hesitation within his own camps, within the Shias. There'll be some hesitation. Why is that? Because there'll be individuals who will look at Imam Mahdi and tell themselves that he's here to remove our social norms. If we look at the prophets and the Imams, why they weren't accepted, why there wasn't a red carpet treatment for them, why there seemed to be so much oppression against them, was because their job, part of their role was to break the social norms that were destructive. For example, the Holy Prophet and the famous social norm of burying newborn girls alive wasn't done by everybody. Only a handful of tribes did it. But a social norm is defined, very carefully now, stay with me here. A social norm is defined as something that a certain amount of people are doing, but everyone else is quiet about it, thus accepting of it, it becomes a norm. Everyone doesn't have to do it for it to become a social norm. Not every person who gave birth to a girl buried them. No, there were mothers and aunts and wives and daughters in society, but no one else said anything. When Imam Mahdi will arrive, there'll be an attack on social norms that are destructive inside of our society. Remember, guys, we're not waiting for the arrival of Imam Mahdi. We're not waiting for the bang of the zuhur of Imam Mahdi. We're waiting for life under Imam Mahdi. There's a big difference. Right? It's one thing like, I can't wait for my wedding day. I can't wait for my wedding day. It's going to be an amazing wedding day. Whoa. There's a whole marriage after that wedding day, my dear. There's a whole 20 years, 30 years, inshallah, and 3 kids and 4 kids and in-laws and this and that and siblings. All of that happens. Your wedding day will be great, inshallah. Your 8 functions will turn out to be amazing. But what about, are you prepared for life after that? I think we're waiting for, the doves to be released, kafari to drop. There'll be jashans and qasidas, Imam Age, the Imam is here. That's great. Inshallah, that's going to happen. But what about life under the Imam? The life under the Imam, as you know, will be void of social norms that are there to destruct and destroy mankind. I ask you, I leave you with this. Are there norms today in this society that the Imam will come looking to remove? If there are you and I entrenched in those norms or not? Removing ourselves from those norms and being people of distinction is the language of love of the Ahlul Bayt. then now we become an ornament, a zinat, a beauty, as Imam Sadiq says, such that when people look at us, they don't always look at us. They remember Ali and the Ahlul Bayt through us and our amal, inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept our qaleel discussion and worship, to somehow now become closer to the Ahlul Bayt, thus paving our path to salvation. We ask you, Allah, in the month of Rajab, to accept our amal, forgive our sins, and forgive the sins of our parents. And finally, Allah, we do all we can to make ourselves worthy of the arrival of Imam Mahdi, inshallah, and to allow us and our families to stand beside him when he comes. Thank you very much, one and all. May Allah bless you on this Adeem night. Wassalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much, Syed. That's Jafri. Really appreciate it, and very thought-provoking lecture, mashallah. Shabir, bismillah.
أفضل الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله محمد وآل محمد صلوا على محمد محب و مبارک ہے شکر جلی خوشی ہو کہ پیدا ہوئے آجلی سروری میں ہے جو خوش کو تری خوشی ہو کہ پیدا ہوئے آجلی علی کا نام بھی نام خدا راحت جاہے علی کا نام بھی نام حرز طفلا ہے علی کا نام بھی نام خدا تیغ جواں ہے لیا نام علی تو بلا سب چلی عرش اعظم پہ لکھا ہے نام علی پر مشکل تو کے دو مدد یا علی راہ ورد زباں شیعہ دے علی پر مشکل تو کے دو مدد یا علی علی کے نام سے دونوں جہاں میں عزت ہے علی کا ذکر ہے خالق کی اطاعت ہے علی کے نام سے غمگین دل کو فرحت ہے کرو حق سے دعا تو بنام علی ہوگی حاجت روا تو بنام علی پر مشکل تو کے دو مدد یا علی راہ شیانہ دے علی پر مشکل تو کے دو مدد یا علی الہی واسطہ تجھ کو محمد مصطفیٰ کا الہی واسطہ تجھ کو علی مرتضیٰ کا الہی واسطہ حسنین کا اور فاطمہ کا رہے ایمان ہمارے سلام صدا مومنوں کو نہ ہو کوئی رنج و بلا پر مشکل تو کے دو مدد یا علی راہ ورد زبان شیانہ دے علی پر مشکل تو کے دو مدد یا علی علی کے نام سے ہو مستجاب سب کی دعا جو کہ ہے بیمار مومن دے انہیں جلد شفا قید آفت میں جو ہے یا رب انہیں کر دے رہا تیری ذات ہے پاک خفی و جلی ہو قبول ہماری مراد دلی پر مشکل تو کے دو مدد یا علی راہ ورد زبان شیانہ دے علی پر مشکل تو کے دو مدد یا علی الہی ہو جہاں میں نور رحمت کا وفور مہدی موعود کا ہوئے جہاں میں جلد ظہور ہو علم عباس کا جلوہ نما رب غفور ہاتھ پھیلا کے معذو تو کر یہ دعا یا علی ہو شفیع میرے روز جزا پر مشکل تو کے دو مدد یا علی راہ ورد زبان شیانہ دے علی پر مشکل تو کے دو مدد یا علی افضل الصلاة والسلام علیک یا رسول اللہ محمد وآل محمد صلوات صلو علی محمد. Listening to you.
All right, thank you, Shabir Uncle. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Dr. Ali, Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum. And salam alaikum to Syed Jafri. What can I say? You captivated the whole audience. And from all the rave reviews, you have been a hit, including my 7-year-old granddaughter, who was past her bedtime, and she heard your voice, and she said, I like this reciter, so I'm going to listen to him. And she's right here, sitting next to me, listening to you with rapt attention. Is 1 hour past her bedtime. And what can I say? We are looking forward to seeing you again on March 16th. And since you like Los Angeles so much and are enamored by the palm trees, our Siijla logo contains palm trees. So paste them on your wall and make sure you agree and promise to come here physically as soon as the pandemic is over. And I promise you, you'll get your dokras, you'll get your mandazis and all the East African dishes that you have eaten, never heard of. And of course, the famous Zanzibar chai. Thank you again, and it was a pleasure to have you here again. Thank you. Hasnain, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ali. Appreciate it. And I'm sure Syed Asad absolutely appreciates those comments.
Yes,
So
I do. Thank you, Dr. Saber. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
And just so you know, it's also an hour past my bedtime as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. Okay,
Yeah.
before we turn it over and conclude, inshallah, just a quick announcement. So our next program, inshallah, will be on Friday, February 26th, commemorating the Shahadat of Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam. Once we complete that, then inshallah, we will move into the 2021 annual general meeting. That'll be over Zoom, inshallah. So details to come, and also details have been sent via our emails. So with that, Shabir Uncle, I'll turn it back to you to conclude, and then we'll conclude the ziyarat.
Ilahi babimar dashte bala, jo bimar ho jald paave shafa. Ilahi baraye Imam zaman hame haulema shas de tu ama kayamat ko mashur raho ba Ali उठे कब्र से के हम याली है पांचवनों मिल जहानतन अहमद वली Zehra wa Hasan Shabir Sile Imam zaman Shabir Sile Imam zaman ek pe sada salawat o salam ya imam zaman farma huzur ya imam zaman salawat wa Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ahsan. Thank you, Shabir Uncle. Rehan, if you are ready, Bismillah.
Assalamu alayka ya Abadullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifinaik. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بكيت وبكي الليل والنهار ولا جعله آخر أهدي مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولى وابن مولى. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلطان أبا الحسن مولى علي بن موسى الرضا. كن شفينا والشفي والدي في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولى يا صاحب العز والزمان. الأمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك طوى وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
اللهم صل
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you, boys. MashaAllah. Great job. With that, Mu'mineen, that concludes tonight's program. Kushali Mubarak to all of you once again. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.